Hey guys, and welcome to my kill guide for Season 7. The things I'm gonna talk about are: first, runes and masteries; second, the skill order; third, summoner spells; fourth, how to play AD, AP, and on it; fifth, matchup and counters; and for the last, pros and cons about Kale. Let's go. And by the way, sorry for my bad English. So let's start with the runes. This is like the page I'm using 95% of my games, with 24% attack speed, scaling HP, and 20% scaling CDR. And if you play against 80 champions, you basically just change the seals to armor. These are my AP runes. I'm using 10 CDR flat, just because to get the 40% with your Nash's Tooth and the Lich Bane. And for the AD runes, I use 30% attack speed, HP per level, and 10 scaling CDR. There are also 3 mastery pages I'm currently using, one for AD, one for on-hit, and one for AP. So this is my AD page I'm using. I play with Feather of Battle because I think since they changed it, it's pretty much useless on AP or on Kale. So I think it fits really well with playing AD crit Kale. So for playing on Kale, I'm using this page right now. I'm not using Feather of Battle, I'm using Stormwind Surge, since I think it's a lot better on playing on Kale, because the movement buff that it gives you allows you to kite a lot better than without it. For AP Kale, I'm using the same page, just with some difference. I play Thunderlords because I think with Lich Bane it's a lot better than Storm Raider Surge, but you can also use the Storm Raider Surge page for playing AP Kale. Next, we're gonna talk about the skill order. You should always max E first. Then, if you're behind, you should max your W, and if you're ahead, then you should max your Q. Let's talk about the summoner spells. You should always take Flash first, and second, you can choose between Exhaust or TP, Ghost, or Ignite. I personally think that Exhaust as the second summoner spell is like the best at this moment, because you can almost 1v1 everybody with this spell. For TP, you should take it if you're like playing against a really hard matchup, and Ignite if you want to play really offensive. And for Ghost, you should take it if the enemy jungler has like no CC or is really weak. For the next thing, I'm gonna talk about how to play Kale for AD, AP, and on it. So in general, Kale is a really strong champion that scales hard into the late game. The important thing about playing Kale is to farm really good, because you need items and they cost a lot of gold. The second thing is to know when you can trade, or when you can fight, or when you have to ult. Now you can see the 3 item builds that I'm currently playing for AD, for on it, and for AP. And yeah, you can just copy them or do whatever you want to. For the early game, there are like 2 things you can do. First thing is to shove the wave in. So basically what that means is the first wave that is coming, you just try to push it as fast as possible, so the enemy is under the turret and you can harass them with your E. And the second thing is that you try to play really passive in the early game for like the first 10 minutes or so, because Kale hates to get ganked. She's really weak, she has like no escape, and if you play against like Elise or something that got CC, you're pretty much fucked. For the mid game, there's always one thing you should do, and that is split pushing, if you play like the on it or the AD build. So if you got like your Nashor's Tooth, your Rage Blade, and your Berserker Graves, you should be able to 1v1 everybody, especially if you play with Exhaust. And yeah, for the late game, you should have like your items completely full equipped. And yeah, you should just try to keep split pushing, or just to secure some objectives with your team together. Or if you play like top lane with TP, you can just still split push and tell your team to like group up as for bot lane. so you can make a lot of pressure bot lane and top lane as well. So that's like a pretty simple but really effective strategy you can use in your games. Let's move on to the next part, and this is the matchups and how to counter her. So for the matchups, like it's pretty simple. A lot of melee champions are pretty bad against Kayle, because as Kayle you can basically just harass them every time they use something with your E. But there are quite a few champions, melee champions, that are pretty cancer. So for example, I think Fiora and Malphite are pretty strong against Kayle, because they can remove a lot of attack speed from you. So that's pretty fucked up. But there are also pretty good counters to Kayle actually, like ranged champions or in general mages, like LeBlanc, Annie, Anivia or Lulu are pretty good against her. But she is also really good against assassins, because assassins need to all in and burst you down, otherwise they are pretty useless. And Kayle ult is pretty much the biggest counter to the assassins right now. So yeah. So let's talk about the last thing in my guide, and these are the pros and cons about playing Kayle. So I'm gonna start with the pros first. You have a really good kit in general. You have heal, you have ranged attack, you have slow that scales really good, and you have like, for me at least, the best ult in the whole game. The second thing is that you can almost 1v1 every champion if you play with exhaust, but also without exhaust you can 1v1 everybody, because your ult is just really broken. The next thing is you have a really good late game, so you scale really good. She's pretty easy to play, but I still think she's a lot harder to master than like a lot of you guys think. If you know when to ult, you can pretty much carry every single team fight, and you can play her in like every role. You can play her ADC, you can play her support, you can play her jungle, you can play her top lane, you can play her mid lane. And I think she's the only champion that can do this at the moment. For the cons, I have a few things as well. She has a really weak early game, because her cooldowns are really high in the early game. So you have to care about it. The next thing is that your core items are really expensive. The Nashor's Tooth and the Rage Blade. Like CC is the pretty best count at this moment against Kayle, and the enemies can pretty much bait your ult out if they know how to do it. Kayle hates ganks, so if she get like ganked, she's pretty fucked up if the enemy jungler got CC. And if you fall behind, you're pretty useless unless you get your full items, or at least 4 to 5 items. Yeah. So yeah, that's it for this guide. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, then please make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more. If you got any ideas what I can do next, or any improvements, then please tell me in the comments below. And yeah, hopefully you learned something today, and I wish you a wonderful day. See ya. And if you want to check out other videos, you can do it right now. So here are 2 links for the latest videos. The first one is a montage, and the second one is like a really long game highlight video. So make sure to click them, and yeah, that's really it. Bye.